Heather Warner in part 2 of the show, winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Sport Pembrokeshire Awards on Friday night. You'll be able to watch that video again on Facebook. She was a breath of fresh air, really, wasn't she? So down to earth, so modest, so upbeat, and a true, really great athlete. And Fraser, you said it, up there now with some of the best athletes that the county's produced.
Yeah, and that's a big compliment you can play to a character, actually. She was always an absolute pleasure to deal with from a media point of view. She was modest, she was down to earth. You never had any inkling of success ever go into her head. And she leaves the sport the same as she walked into it. You know, a nice girl, down to earth person who'd always have time for you. And then, you know, she's, like we said, superb career. I'm glad it's been recognised because it was deserved.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So we're going to talk about the Sport Pembrokeshire Awards in just a sec, some of the other winners, and great to see some friends of the show actually picking up some awards. But some sad news over the weekend. Terry Venables passed away at the age of 80. And actually, Fraser, I know you tweeted about that, didn't you, saying that you didn't have to be an England fan to kind of appreciate Euro 96. And for me as a Tottenham fan, probably the greatest manager of my lifetime to manage Spurs. So we'll have a bit of fun with that as well. Maybe the three of you can name your favourite managers that have managed your teams before we finish at 9. But also, Gordon, you were just reminding us off air, we've lost Terry Venables this weekend. And actually, was it 13 years ago to the day, you and Fraser actually walked into Swansea City?
It was one of the most surreal moments that Fraser and I went to the game. Swansea were actually in the Premier League playing Aston Villa, and we got to the media room. It's just a normal game, we thought, and we could see a few guys in there cheering up, and we were wondering what was going on. Had something happened in the changing room?
Bobby Gould was cut up, wasn't it?
Bobby Gould, the ex-Wales manager, was really in a state there, and it was strange. And then we were told, is the game going to be called off? And we still didn't know the reason at that point why. And then when we saw the game went ahead, and when we saw the teams lining up to shake hands before they started, Shay Given was in a hell of a state. You know, he was visibly shaken. He was an ex-teammate of who it was. It was Gary Speed, who'd unfortunately taken his own life. And it was probably a game now that shouldn't have gone ahead.
In hindsight.
In hindsight. But the stadium was full and the fans were singing Gary Speed. But it's one of the most surreal moments in my lifetime that, you know, when that happened. And we were both there. Yeah, it was.
I mean, the silence, the two of you, there was a silence before the game, I imagine. And that what was that like? That must have been
it was actually intended to be a silence, and it was overridden by the fans overrode the silence, singing "There's only one Gary Speed," actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always remember the press conference afterwards. I think Brendan Rodgers, perhaps Alex McLeish was in charge of it at the time.
He was, Alex McLeish, it was.
And then it was the first press conference I've been to, and there was never a single question about football.
No.
No. It was a sad, surreal day. I'll never forget it, like Gordon said.
Yeah, only one Gary Speed. There's no doubt about that. And I think actually that his name's obviously come up quite a bit during the international break, and it always remembering the kind of the building blocks he put in for what was to follow for that Welsh team as well.
100%.
Chris Coleman taking them to the Euros in 2016 and what they achieved there. That was all down to that early work that Speed had done with those players. Some guy, and incredible effort he did, and great player as well. I mean, I remember being younger watching that Leeds team that won the Premier League, and Gary Speed was a big part of that. So
Leeds never won the Premier League. Let's get that.
Yeah,
Division One. Division One.
Get that in,
Division One. Very good, Gordon. Gordon's on the ball tonight, isn't he?
I'm not allowing that.
Yeah, no, but great, absolutely. So important to remember that, and being at that game those years ago, it must have been something that I know the two of you won't ever forget. At the Sport Pembrokeshire Awards, in fact, that Friday, the Friday before he passed away on the Sunday, I remember interviewing Ian Walsh. He was there that night at Folly Farm.
Absolutely right.
And I interviewed him and asked him on that Friday just to talk about the job that Gary Speed was doing with Wales. And he said, it's brilliant. He's bringing young players through. He's really kicked this team on. And obviously we didn't know what was to come just 2 days later. So, it's
funny you say that, Ben. He was in the media room that day.
Me
and Gordon interviewed him afterwards. And at first we were intending to interview him, looking back on his Lifetime Achievement Award. But the interview obviously took on a different angle as well because of that.
Yeah, indeed. Remembering Gary Speed on the show this evening. There were quite a few familiar names to this show that picked up awards on Friday, weren't there? We heard from Heather just now, but it was great to see some people we've spoken to over the years, because we're 3 years old now on Pure West Sport, which is incredible. And we've spoken to some brilliant people over the years, and it was great to see some of them recognised. Phrase, just to pick out a few. So Sam Fennick was Coach of the Year, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Dave Aston, unsung hero as well. Some good
we
winners.
had Dave on not so long ago. Delighted for Sam, actually, because the CrossFit, I think it's not always looked at it in the achievement in the light that they deserve to be, and it's often been overlooked. Actually, I think she's been forward a few times, and what she's done there is phenomenal. They are competing literally on the world stage, some of those athletes now, and they've really progressed. And it doesn't always get the publicity that I think it deserves, and there's maybe perhaps a little bit of ignorance still to the whole concept, because it is obviously different from what people are used to. So no, delighted for her. She's done tremendously well, and that was another one I thought was thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. I say Dave Aston's we had on the show recently. He picked up the Unsung Hero Award. We also saw some great people recognised. Blevin Gibbs picked up the disability. That was great. Yeah, I was going to say, Gordon, it's good to see people being recognised like that, isn't it?
Yeah, disability sport has come on leaps and bounds, over the last decade, and it's grown. And you've seen athletes like we saw Jacob Thomas, at the Paralympics, and Blevin picking up 4 goals in the Paralympics. It's something that these kids would never have been doing. And they deserve to be on the stage doing what they're doing. And now they're being recognised. I think that's brilliant. I really do.
I have to say, I think me and Gordon off record conversations in the past, you wonder if the format would get stale at all. Because it's often hard to keep up interest when you're hosting an event every year and it's at the same venue. But it really hasn't. A record number of nominations this year, and everyone like Heather there was glowingly praised about the night. It's still getting mass interest and getting good feedback, which is excellent, really.
It's like you pointed out, Ben, there's the variety of sports. Until you go there and see who's actually up for the awards and what they're doing, you don't realise, because you're in your little bubble playing your rugby, your football or cricket or whatever, but there's so many others sports in the spectrum that you don't know about, and they're international. These people who are, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic.
We should mention Bill Kahn as well, shouldn't we? He compared it for the last time, having done it every year since the first great innings from him.
To be fair, 17 years of doing that, and he's done a brilliant job. Fantastic ambassador for local sport as well, and he thoroughly deserved that award as well. I'm sure he'll be there next year watching and saying he don't do it as good as me, do they?
Well, I remember he could be another one like Heather. Is he really? Will he be there next year? Was that really his retirement? But you're right, absolutely right, Phrase. Because actually, Bill not just only hosting it on the night, which isn't an easy job either, because you have to keep it running to time on that stage with a lot going on, but also just driving the Sport Pembrokeshire Awards every year. Top job. So absolutely well done to Bill. I mean, just picking out just a couple more. The under 16 winners in the boys category, Ramon Ciso in football and Josie Hawke in surfing in the girls category. Just kind of echoing what Gordon said, really, about the variety of sports that get recognised.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll be honest, obviously sit on the judging panel, it can be difficult because of that, Ben, because certain achievements in some sports are out of context with certain achievements in others. So it does make it difficult, but that's by the by, the fact that there's so many different sports are nominating and coming in and not feeling discriminated because they might not be as fashionable sports or sports which don't get the same media coverage of others. The fact that all of these clubs are nominating people is healthy, and it shows the awards are very much alive.
What I love with both of those award winners is you got Josie, who's under 16, has won under 18s competitions.
Yes.
And you've got Ramon Ciso, who's winning goal of the month for Swansea against Swansea City senior players. So they're all punching above their weight anyway.
And he's still doing very well at Swansea, actually.
Excellent.
Yeah, good to see.
Need to play now, to be honest.
You can actually listen to all of the winners, the interviews that Tom did actually on Friday with all of the winners. If you head to purewestradio.com, they're all on there. Tom, Sport Pembrokeshire Awards were always one of my favourite events to do. I'd always be outside interviewing the winners as well. Was it cold? That's my one memory of waiting outside, freezing out. It was always really warm in the auditorium, freezing outside. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they did. They managed to warm up our little corner, so it was actually relatively pleasant. It wasn't warm by any imagination, but they're going back to Bill Khan, keeping things to time. There's a constant stream of winners and runners up coming out towards you to get their pictures and their interviews. And what was nice, it was my second year in a row, and we just mentioned Gracie with Heather. Well, she came over, she got the Women's Achievement Award, and it was only last year that she picked up the under-16s for doing a Josie Hawk and competing in age categories above her age, and now she's being acknowledged for as the Women's Award, and at her first time of asking. So it was remarkable, and it shows how you just mentioned off air with Gordon there actually about that transition from juniors to seniors, and maybe that influence of Heather and the difficulty she had is already benefiting Gracie now at that early start point.
Good stuff. Yeah, always reminded me that Pembrokeshire 100%. Punches above its weight with some of the sporting talent, no doubt about that. And always a nice bunch of people there as well. So well done to everyone at that. Right, we are almost done. We mentioned two great managers though, Terry Venables and Gary Speed. Fitting way to finish. Terry Venables is the best manager I've seen manage Tottenham. What about at your teams? Gordon, easy one for you, Manchester United?
Well, I'm going to say Ferguson, or I might say Matt Busby, but I tell you my favourite manager was Tommy Docherty in the 70s. Lost his job, had a fling with the physio's wife, and he had the sack.
I mean,
Fraser?
Incredible in this day and age that you could get Manchester United relegated and not lose your job.
And brought him back up.
Amazing, given that time.
Given an opportunity.
I know, imagine that now. Johnny Hollins were my favourite Swansea in the 90s.
Nice
Originally
guy.
took us up from the fourth tier. Great person, great club man. I'll never forget watching us the first year under Michael Laudrup. Neither were Gordon, and Rodgers had a big influence too. But yeah, Johnny Hollins my favourite.
Okay, honourable mention for Harry Redknapp for me as well. Tom?
Nice. For me, toss up between Gerard Houllier and Rafa Benitez for Liverpool.
I think John Hollins may have been a teammate at Chelsea with Venables.
Yes,
right. And a really nice guy.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Also, Terry Venables, not just a great manager, he's a good singer as well.
Yes.
I didn't realise that today. Proper good crooner.
Yeah.
He has some connection with a Welsh League club as well. I can't. I'll have to find out next week and tell you what that's about. But he has got a connection with a Welsh League club.
He had a few businesses, they'll tell, and not all were successful.
No. Did get linked with the Wales job a couple of times. Never got it.
He did. He did.
Listen, we're going to have to go, I'm afraid. I'm getting shouted at. Enjoyed it this evening. Thank you, Gordon, Fraser and Tom. Very much enjoyed it. We're back again next Monday from 7. Don't forget you can listen again at purewestradio.com. Red Thread is next with Tim Cooper. Good night.
This is